So this is called the reverse pitch panel. We've done this at least once before, maybe twice. And it's a little unique because on this panel at this meeting, we frequently have venture people like myself, James, others, Rob Rothman, talking about what they're looking for in a project, in an investment opportunity, what are the startup characteristics they're interested in. But we don't always hear from some of the bigger players, actually, what they're interested in. And that's what we're going to try to explore here today. And we have Amy Hopkin, Tomas Navratil, Tomo Oe, Shannon Spock, and Anthony Wallace, my good friend for many years. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, their titles and roles at their respective companies, and then give us a few minutes about some of the things broadly they're thinking about, and then I'll pose some more specific questions to them. You want to start, Anthony?
Sure. Well, Firas, thank you. It's always great to have the opportunity to be on a panel with you, and I mentioned it earlier, but this is another really successful OIS, so congrats to you and Maureen and Craig and Rob. And Rob as well, I have to say Rob as well.
Have to credit Rob.
So my name is Anthony Wallace. I lead the surgical business in North America for Bausch and Lomb. And do you want me to share a little bit about the company first?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yourself, right. The company, whatever you feel. But yeah, I think so. I think most of us know B&L, but we're not knowing necessarily what you're up to right now.
Yeah,
so please.
So we're really in a nice growth phase. We're a 170-year-old company. We a legacy company. We have the #1 brand recognition name in eye care. A lot of just history and legacy in optics and pharmaceuticals and vision care. We have 4 divisions right now. We have a vision care group that's contact lenses. We have a consumer business, which is everything over the counter, so drops, like things like Lumify and Arid's vitamins and other areas. We have a pharmaceuticals business, which is heavily focused on dry eye right now with Mibo and Xiidra. And then we have a surgical business, which I lead, and in that business, we're pretty much in everything in retina, anterior segment cataract. We also have a refractive business and a diagnostics business. So we really look for areas of need. We service more than 80% of the world's population, and we look for opportunities to make an impact, both for surgeons and for patients. And that's really an area that we've been hyper-focused on, including being able to fill some unmet needs. So a little bit about us.
Tomas?
Thank you so much to the OIS crew. You've done an amazing job as always, and it's a privilege to be here. My name is Tomas Navratil. I'm Chief Development Officer at Glaukos. And so it's been a truly exciting last 12 months at Glaukos, and so within that context, it's my pleasure to present you an argument that Glaukos, having traversed the journey from a startup to a strategic without losing its entrepreneurial spirit and culture, would undoubtedly be a great home for many of the innovative therapies represented by companies in the room. I would be remiss not to acknowledge our collaborating companies, some of which are represented, Stewart Therapeutics, Ripple, and Ivina teams. Thank you so much for our collaborations. So as you know, Glaukos was founded more than 20 years ago to transform glaucoma care, which led to the invention of the original iStent product, creation of a new class of trabecular bypass medical devices, and the MIGS marketplace as we know it. We continue to innovate from that on, and over the last 5 years, we have invested more than $500 million into R&D, which constitutes more than 30% of our revenue year after year. Based on this investment, we have built this concept of therapeutic platforms, each of which is capable of spawning multiple waves of paradigm-shifting products. And I'd like to share with you 3 of such platforms as they represent a mix of in-house research and in-licensed products. So the first platform is the iStent platform, where we are currently on our 4th generation product, the iStent Infinite. And we continue to optimize from generation to generation. That's our kind of in-house approach. And that we apply to in-licensed products as well. And so iStent Infinite as a 4th generation product is our best one yet. We have just unmasked a study and reported results on a head-to-head comparison with the Hydro stent, showing that iStent Infinite is superior in IOP lowering and safety. So we are very pleased with this best performing 4th generation product. The second therapeutic platform is the iDose platform. iDose is a microscopic implant that's anchored at the iridocorneal angle and is capable of delivering multiple years of small molecule therapeutics into the anterior segment. So this platform gave rise to our iDose TR product, which was approved by the US FDA in December of last year and successfully launched by our commercial team. iDose TR has demonstrated that it releases travoprost up to 3 years and provides IOP lowering for up to 3 years, while remaining anchored at the iridocorneal angle. So It has a great corneal endothelial cell safety and doesn't pose a risk like the unanchored implants that are some of the products in this class. And so we are working on future generations of iDose, some of which contain partner molecules. Third platform is the iLink platform, which is bioactivated pharmaceuticals. That's based on full acquisition of Avidro. That was a $500 million transaction. And this is a first-in-class and best-in-class treatment for keratoconus. So given this combination of in-house research and in-licensed products, we now have been able to robustly triple the size of the Glaukos R&D pipeline over the last 3 years. From the perspective of what we are looking in terms of the partnerships, in terms of disease states, we are agnostic. We are currently targeting a broad range of diseases in our portfolio. These diseases are organized therapeutically by our franchises in glaucoma, cornea, and retina, and also robustly supplemented by our therapeutics targeting orphan drug diseases. And also from the standpoint of therapeutic agents, we are really comfortable using different engineering processes and manufacturing processes. We are comfortable with new chemical entities. We use therapeutic peptides. We use high molecular weight biologics. We use therapeutic nucleic acids, bioactivated pharmaceuticals, and multiple drug delivery platforms. From the perspective of what we have to offer to partner companies, besides excellence in R&D and engineering, I would like to highlight our manufacturing. We deliberately choose to manufacture in-house the most difficult products. Ordinarily, our peers take the opposite approach, outsourcing the most difficult products to CDMOs. We also do not outsource any clinical research. We have fully staffed clinical development and biostatistics team. And also from the standpoint of commercialization, we have outstanding sales, marketing, and market access teams that are targeting 17 largest markets in ophthalmology worldwide. So in summary, we continue to innovate at Glaukos. We maintained our innovative culture. We are not afraid to go first. We are not afraid to create new therapeutic classes. We are not afraid to create new markets. And from that perspective, we feel we would be an ideal partner for many companies with your innovative technologies. And we would treat your technology as our firstborn, and together we can develop these great products that change the lives and improve lives of ophthalmic patients worldwide. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Tomo?
Excited to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me to this distinguished panel discussion today. And I'm Tomo Oe from Business Development Team of Astellas Pharma. And Astellas is a top 30 global pharmaceutical company with a team of 15,000 employees operating in over 70 countries around the world. And our current sales are mainly coming from oncology, immunology, and urology areas. And in the meantime, our R&D effort is focused primarily on the areas of blindness and gene therapy and immuno-oncology and targeted protein degradation. And our value is to turn innovative science into value for patients. And we recognize that no one knows your innovation better than you. And so the collaboration is key to our success. And actually, over 50% of our pipeline and products originate from external partnerships. And so by offering like a combination of our capabilities and expertise and knowledge with yours, we can create flexible and tailored approaches for our partnership. And in ophthalmology area, we partnered with multiple companies over the past several years with a different partnering structure. For example, we acquired Iveric Bio and Okata Therapeutics and Kusera Therapeutics, and also in-licensed technology from 4D Molecular Therapeutics. So we are eager to find new partners, and looking forward to talking with you all today.
Thank you. Shannon, you want to go ahead?
Hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Shannon Spock. I'm part of the BD&L team at Alcon. I've been at Alcon for over 20 years, so I actually was part of Alcon when we were owned by Nestle. So I've been around a long time. I've worked in both R&D roles and business development over the last 5 years. My focus has been on the surgical side, and more recently, the last 2 years, I've focused on rebuilding our pharmaceutical portfolio, which I'll talk about more in a moment. For those that don't know, Alcon, we are eye care. We only do eye care, and so we serve 140 countries worldwide as we look to serve patients and help them see brilliantly. We have a very extensive surgical portfolio. We are number one in the surgical equipment and products area, and we have a very well-trusted vision care group. And as I mentioned, we are going back to our roots that Mr. Alexander and Mr. Connor built us on from rebuilding a pharmaceutical portfolio. So we're slowly and methodically doing that. As you all know, we bought Aerie about 2 years ago, and that's been a great foundation, a great group of people. That's been a foundation of an R&D organization, a pipeline. We want to continue that success. We want to continue to build in that area. So we have a very heavy emphasis on our R&D organization. So we spend around $828 million last year in R&D alone, with 1,800 dedicated resources in R&D, and we continue to do that. With that being said, we do just as much investing outside of R&D, our own R&D organization. So we're agnostic to where innovation comes from. So we do work with organizations and all different types of investment structures, everything from very early stuff. Our Alcon R&D team has an Alcon seed fund, which they do very, very early work. And then in BD&L, we look at things that are a little more mature. On the pharma side, I would say we are looking at things that have human data, ideally at phase 2, but we certainly look earlier than phase 2, depending on the therapeutic area. So we're looking forward to continuing to expand our innovation with all of you.
Thank you. Amy, you want to go ahead?
Hi, so thanks for the invite, of course. Amy Hopkin, I'm currently Director of Search and Evaluation at AbbVie, covering eye care. I've been in this role for 2.5 years, but prior to that, I started my pharma industry experience at Allergan in discovery research. So spent a while there before I went to the dark side of BD, but it's a fun role. So I think everyone's familiar with AbbVie and Allergan, over 75 years in eye care. So I thought it'd be helpful to kind of give you what our strategic focus is as far as what we're looking at from the outside. And so currently, it is divided in 3 pillars. So those being retina, glaucoma, and ocular surface. And so within retina, we're currently focused on the larger diseases, so wet AMD, dry AMD, GA, as well as the diabetic diseases, so DME, DR. Currently, things like IRDs are off strategy for us. And within all those diseases, we really are interested in all different modalities. So whether it be small molecules, biologics, gene therapy, those are all on strategy. However, cell therapy is currently not on strategy for us. And within all those diseases, and kind of this spans across sort of all of our pillars, sustained drug delivery is something that's of utmost importance to us. So we're always looking for new novel platforms that can give us a longer duration for different drugs. Within our glaucoma pillar, we're focused on glaucoma neuroprotection and really focused on drug delivery. So we recently did a deal with Ripple Therapeutics. It was an option deal for a sustained release bimatoprost implant. And so we're definitely still focused in that area. And then lastly, for ocular surface, so dry eye disease always remains front and center for AbbVie, so we're interested in new innovations there. We're also more recently looking at things like neurotrophic keratitis, so that's something we've been paying more attention to, and I think there's a lot of unmet need there. And then lastly, we do have a pretty robust consumer eye care OTC business, and so that's something that we continue to invest in both internally and externally, so always looking for new innovations that can help bolster up that business as well.
Thank you. Something that maybe this audience doesn't know as part of this meeting is also probably all the companies, but B&L and Alcon put a lot of money and effort back into fellow surgical training. I was just in Fort Worth for the course as a faculty member, and universally, the fellows around the country think it's the best weekend of surgical education, including their own universities. It's phenomenal. B&L too. There's a lot there, and you should be credited for that. So let's start. We'll get a little more specifics. A couple of you talked about some of these things already, so a little bit might be repetitive, but feel free to wax poetically as you like. What types of Anthony, I'll start with you. You had a chance to rest here for a minute. I was going to go back the other way, but I thought, that doesn't seem fair. What types of companies and assets might you be interested in at this time as opposed to in previous years, or maybe they're all the same? And specifically, what stage of scientific development and or stage of corporate development? What level is comfortable for you? Are there areas you're not interested in, too early, too late, either scientifically or corporate-wise?
Yeah, well, no, thank you. You know, we have a balance, right? And I should have mentioned that earlier. We have a mix of external acquisitions and partnerships and then internal development. So as an example, since the beginning of 2023, so less than 2 years, we've made almost $2.5 billion of acquisitions, external acquisitions. Most of those were to fill gaps in our portfolio. Internally, we've brought over 10 products to market since the beginning of 2023. So we really try to balance this because we know we can't do it all internally. We know we need external partners. So areas of focus that we really like are both on the pharmaceutical side as well as on the surgical side, and really trying to identify products that fill that unmet need, that gap. And high areas of focus include areas that are efficiencies for surgeons and for practitioners, as well as making a significant impact for patients. Some key things that we really are excited about is areas that we can connect surgeons with their patients, areas that we can, we got to figure out reimbursement for some of this, right, which is always a little bit of a challenge, but these are areas that we see the next frontier of innovation in healthcare coming forward, and we're trying to stay at the front of that. On the physician side, we've been really high on surgical planning and trying to find ways to make better decisions, to make you more efficient in the surgery room and even before preparing for a surgery. So these are all key areas for us that we've been really focused on. But overall, I would just say, making an impact for patients, making an impact for surgeons, and the gaps that we have within our portfolio. So phases where we like to look at, I would say on the pharma side, phase 2B is kind of our sweet spot and beyond, although we're not against placing some early bets in preclinical and areas that we think are going to have a really true unmet need, and we can develop those as a company. But that 2B and forward, obviously, if it's something on market, we know we're going to pay more, but it's a higher percentage of what you want to achieve. And we really, again, look for 3 Fs, right? Fit, feasibility, and financials. It's got to fit within our portfolio. It's got to fit. It's got to be part of our strategy. The feasibility of it, we have to be able to do it. So some of these things are really cool, but we may not have the right capabilities to do that. And then the financials, when the fit and feasibility line up, the financials have to make sense, right? We're a publicly traded company, and we've got to make sure that we're able to deliver for our shareholders as well.
It was, I think, Cal Roberts some years ago that said to me when I offered him a pitch on a very early stage program, and we're good friends from a long time ago. He taught me cataract surgery. He's like, for us, we're buddies and all, but I'd rather pay 10x and get it de-risked more, like hit the road. So 2B is very specific, and I appreciate that. I have a follow-up question. In venture, the management team always means everything. We get that. But for us, it's critical because these are the people that are going to continue to take the program further. We'll participate, but not at the same level. When joining a company of your size and the size of everyone up here, how critical is the management team? And I'm not looking to put you in an awkward position, but what are you thinking about those positions as you fold the company under your larger umbrella where you have people that are doing these things already? How does the company view that?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, our thinking has actually evolved on this a little bit. We've made some acquisitions a few years back that we really wanted the asset, and the leadership team was good. They got the product to where it needed to be, and then we took the asset and then we tried to fully integrate it quickly and let go of most of the team. That really our thinking has completely evolved, right? These people actually got the asset they did something we couldn't do. Yeah. So why would we then shed their people? And we've really changed our thinking on this. As an example, we just made an acquisition this summer of TrueCare Medical, and really, the goal of it was to really help with our cataract surgery as we were launching premium lenses. We kept most of their team. I mean, obviously, there's only one CFO and one CEO in a company, but there's so many key positions to make it successful. So truly, the confidence in that leadership team, to me, means a lot, to our company means a lot. And we really now look at the asset as the asset itself and the people It's not just taking the asset. We've really evolved on this, and I'm glad we have.
Great, thank you for that. That's very informative, especially considering you pivoted a little in recent years. Very informative. Tomas, same questions for you?
So from the standpoint of the stage of development, we are truly agnostic. We have good examples of preclinical assets that we have acquired. I think the companies are present in the room. With Stewart Therapeutics, we have licensed a therapeutic peptide for neuroprotection that's in early preclinical stage. With Ripple Therapeutics, we have licensed the transformative drug delivery technology. Or for example, with Nycox, we have licensed a new chemical entity for neuroprotection, glaucoma, and potentially dry AMD. In that kind of early clinical stage, we have Ivina also represented in the room, where we acquired early stage clinical asset for treatment of keratoconus. And maybe a late stage development example is our partnership with Santen on PreserFlow, where we are responsible for US development of this filtering device. And maybe commercial stage acquisition is exampled by Avidro, where we acquired the entire company in 2019. And I think it's a good example of how we absorb the company's expertise. We have kept the original site in Burlington outside of Boston. We have invested in the new campus. We have built out the program. We have substantially supported the commercialization of the first generation product, but also heavily invested into R&D of the second generation product, which is now actually ready for NDA filing before the end of this year. So we are kind of 30 plus days away from the NDA submission. And then at the same time, we already have third generation product based on the Avidro acquired technology in 2 parallel phase 2 clinical studies. So we truly, when we observe a company, we make sure that if there's a complicated technology, we keep and retain all the technologists, the internal KOLs, and build the team up and continue supporting the technology through multiple generations of evolution. So I think from the standpoint of corporate development, the technologists are important. If you acquire an entire company, if you acquire a product, generally speaking, the stage of corporate development and the maturity of the team is less important because we are taking over the development of the product. And from the standpoint of therapeutic focus, we truly are looking for paradigm-changing, paradigm-disrupting technologies. As you know, that's the fundamental principle that has been practiced at Glaukos since its inception, to disrupt the traditional paradigm of topical eye drop use. And from that perspective, we have truly been driving the interventional glaucoma, for example. But also on the retina side, we are looking at reduction of the treatment burden. We have an intravitreal implant that has demonstrated 3-year duration after a single dose in vascular leakage models in preclinical domain. That's currently the first time in human clinical study. And so we aim to transform the way we treat ophthalmic diseases. That's kind of the core principle.
Thank you. Tomo, how about for your company, Astellas? What types of assets might you be looking for? Your acquisition of a dry AMD drug is very well known to this audience. How about now?
Firstly, regarding the type of company, the Astellas is committed to creating an innovative drug that can address high unmet medical needs. So our primary interest is a company or asset that research or develop innovative drugs. But at the same time, sometimes the innovative drugs requires a new device or new diagnostics technologies. So in that case, we are interested in the collaboration opportunity with device and also diagnostics companies as well. And scientific development-wise, we have a gap, like a pipeline gap in clinical stage, in particular like a late clinical stage or post-POC stage. So we are highly interested in the opportunity that could fill that gap. And at the same time, for future growth, we are exploring the preclinical partnering opportunities as well, in line with our current R&D strategy. And in addition, we have a corporate venture arm, and that team is interested in supporting young or emerging companies as investment opportunities. And the third question is corporate development stage. And yeah, I would say we are corporate development stage agnostic company because when we look for a partner, we value the 3 points. One is a strategic fit, and the second one is a scientific rationale, and the third one is a potential impact on our business. So we are open to discussion with company at any developmental stages.
Thank you, that's clear. Shannon, how about at Alcon?
Yeah, so we look at hundreds of opportunities a year. So we look at all stages. I would say on the device side, we certainly probably spend more time on the earlier side than we might on the pharma side. And with that being said, we enter in agreements sometimes very, very early and follow something through development for a very long time, which is a great opportunity to kind of go along with and invest along the way. Many of the things that we acquire are not something that comes out of nowhere. It's something we've been working on for 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. So we look at things that are at different phases. I mentioned for pharma specifically, we certainly want human data, but phase 2, as mentioned before, is ideal. It depends on the therapeutic area. We may go earlier in some therapeutics than others. In terms of the maturity of the management teams, et cetera, as well as we bring on, we look at quality over quantity. Like we don't really need a really robust management team, but we want somebody we can trust, and somebody who's going to run this and take it to the next phase, and which then eventually, hopefully, will become an Alcon asset. It was mentioned yesterday in a panel that there's not a lot of build to buys out there, but that's something we certainly do. We do all kinds of structures. So we do a build to buy with certain assets as well. So yeah, I think we've kept people on. We brought our area team on, and we've kept most of the people there, and it's been really fantastic. Even some of the highest leaders in R&D are still with us today. So they're great assets to us.
And just for clarity for me and the audience, phase 2 meaning completed phase 2?
Yeah.
Generally.
Ideally,
And
yeah.
Anthony, completed phase 2B?
Yeah.
Okay. Amy?
Not always.
Not always, I get
Not
it, but
every-
as a general scope, that's kind of the area you would like to
Yeah.
see the maturation of the scientific project.
That being said, I'd love to have the relationship before then. So if we can have a relationship before then, as we build a relationship over time, as you are getting that data, that's ideal. So that when you have the data, then we're ready to move. So meeting people at an early stage doesn't mean that we're not doing something today. Just like they said yesterday, it's not no, it's just not yet. So we absolutely like to build those relationships until they get that phase 2 data, and then we're ready to roll.
You've been practicing your "it's not you, it's me" discussion.
That's right. A lot of
James,
that.
I think James does that in our firm. He's a pro at it now. It's sad, actually. Amy.
So
Sorry, James.
we're pretty agnostic when it comes to what stage in development. I mean, if you look at our last 2 deals, they pretty much spread the continuum of development. The deal may look a little different depending on what stage it's at. So preclinical, you're probably going to see more of an option type deal or a research collaboration. And also just in certain indications, I would say it tends to vary. So for instance, dry eye disease, we probably are going to want to see some clinical proof of concept in that. But something, dry AMD, glaucoma neuroprotection, I think we're more willing to get in earlier. As far as kind of corporate structure, it's important. I think the closer you get to the clinic, it becomes more important that you do have some seasoned, experienced people on the board, on the C-suite. And of course, talent. We like good talent, so we would try to retain people if we can.
Thank you. This time I will start on your side, since these weren't as long, but a little more specific and maybe answerable, maybe more vague. I leave it to you. The timeline of diligence. This is something, startup companies are always interested in knowing, early on, because they're on a burn rate and they've got months to burn. So for you, what would be a usual timeline for this diligence process? And really specifically, how do you verify the scientific diligence? Do you use in-house scientists or clinicians, advisors, et cetera? How do you pursue those things?
So I'll answer that first, and I'll come back to the timeline. So we do everything in-house. We don't use consultants. We have a few functions, like CMC, for instance, that we actually have dedicated people that is their day job, is to sit on diligence teams. But typically for all the other functions, we just pull in our SMEs. But everything is AbbVie employees, so keep that all in-house. As far as timeline, I know people won't like this answer, but we're not fast, we're big. But it's very structured and it makes a lot of sense. And I think that if you get a non-binding term sheet from us, it's very meaningful. Just to give you a little more context on kind of the process, we begin discussions usually at a non-confidential level. We'll bring in a couple folks, we'll kind of feel it out, see if there's some interest. If there is, then we'll usually build a full diligence team, do a deep dive initial technical assessment that typically can take 6 to 8 weeks with good, robust back and forth between the companies. At that point, if everything is looking good, thumbs up, we like it, then we move to the therapeutic area, and we first have to get buy-in across the therapeutic area, so commercial, clinical, everybody there. Once we have buy-in at that level, we then take it up a level. So we have our R&D External Opportunities Committee, which is chaired by our Chief Business our officer, as well as our head of R&D. And so at that time is when we would go, we present the opportunity, we present what the business proposal is, what the financials look like, and we ask for the blessing to present the company with a non-binding term sheet. So that's our process.
Thank you. Shannon?
Yeah, what Amy said, basically.
You can quote if you like
no,
what
okay.
she said.
Yeah, so the diligence itself is mostly done in-house. The majority of the team, although we don't necessarily have dedicated people, they do have mostly day jobs, but it's the same people that look at assets across the therapeutic areas or a franchise. There are a few white space areas that we do use consultants, just because they're not an area that's at our expertise. So we do have some external consultants, but mostly it's done in-house. As Amy said, the earlier we can get involved and get to know you, the better, because that helps expedite things when you do have data. So once you have data, like she said, around 6 to 8 weeks in terms of doing a review internally with our SME teams, then making a recommendation to our R&D External Advisory Board, and then taking it to an ELT level for agreement, and then we have an Alcon deal committee, which is our CEO and his direct reports. So that can take a period of time, but sometimes that's longer than shorter. So again, the earlier we can kind of get involved and get to know you, and the better it'll go in terms of when we have data and we can move quicker at that point.
Thank you. Tomo?
Regarding the timeline for the transaction, it totally depends on the deal type or urgency of the deal execution. But if the deal is a very simple and urgent one, that could be done within a few months. But at the same time, we have a well-formalized approval system, which involves multiple senior management to discuss strategic priority and the value of the opportunities. So sometimes that process may take some time. And regarding the scientific diligence, we have an end-to-end capability as a pharma. So we basically conduct scientific diligence only by internal key stakeholders or experts. And scientific diligence requires not only a scientific assessment, but also assessment of the strategic fitness. So we BD team often form a large diligence team consisting of research, development, manufacturing, regulatory affairs, commercial, intellectual property, and corporate strategy.
Thank you. Tomas?
So we aim to preserve kind of the startup culture and innovative culture and lack of red tape. And so I think the fastest deal we've done was 3 to 7 days from start to finish in due diligence. But that's not the norm. We have a regular standing meeting between R&D and BD that's attended by Robert Davis, who is our head of business development, and myself as a chief development officer and head of R&D, and supporting staff. Every 2 weeks, we review the entire docket. We, every 2 weeks, provide an update to the CEO. And then for due diligence, we assemble the due diligence team from internal experts based on the scope and nature of the technology that we are considering in licensing or company that we are considering acquiring. The due diligence is done internally, reviewed internally. We do occasionally reach out to external experts, but that's kind of more rare than more regular. And Generally speaking, if there's a likelihood of a deal going forward, we pre-inform the board so that, once the decision is made, it's rapidly executed. And so over the last 7 years, we have looked over 700 companies or 700 deals, and I think we have executed a kind of double-digit number of deals in that same time space.
I'll give you the last word on this one, Vinny.
Well, we move extremely fast. When we want something, we go fast. I'll give you 2 examples. We bought AcuFocus. Start to finish diligence was under 3 weeks. We bought Trucara. Start to finish diligence was under 2 weeks. Obviously, there's some exceptions, right? You have areas where you have to confirm patents and things like that just take some time. But we put a diligence team together. Some folks are in the room here today. Keith is here as well. We put teams together. We use internal, external resources. Depending if we have the skill sets in-house, we'll use that. But we have a timeline. We set the timeline. We have an agreement once we have the deal structure in place, and we try to move extremely fast. One thing I want to clarify, and I see your good friend Rob Rothman in the back. He asked me this question yesterday.
My frenemy.
Like you're number one.
He
Ross,
just
you're
did
number one.
something bad. That was a bad gesture, Rob. That's not syndication quality. I think it's being videoed.
He said you're number one.
He said I'm number one. Okay, all right, sorry, my mistake. Poor syndication quality. All right, go.
But Rob asked me, why do we not see as many, strategics getting involved more in the earlier phases? And my answer was, just because you don't see headlines and you don't see transactions being done, don't think that we're not in those discussions. And this is a prime example in this room, right? We are in discussions with so many companies in early phases because we're not ready to pull the trigger yet. We need to see some more data. We're not, we're very interested, but this is where the innovations, this is where the discussions, this is where they start. And that's the importance of OIS. I mean, this is a great meeting. I still have relationships that we've been following now 3-4 years, and we're getting ready to take a position, but sometimes it's just an issue of partnering and learning, and we've even advised on clinical trials, right? As companies were moving into clinical trials because they eventually want to sell to us. So we've been partnering with them very early on, and then when we're ready to pull the trigger, we put the structure in place and we move extremely fast.
That's a great analysis. Who doesn't love this man's energy? That was awesome. I mean, the longevity of the relationship, way even predating those 2, 6, 8, 3-month weeks, is really everything. I think it's the same thing on the venture side. There's this long-term runway to starting to get into final diligence. So my question was a little unfair because we're talking final diligence, but there's a lot that precedes these last 3, 6 months or 1 month. We're out of time, so it's good because the last question was going to be one that could have created some embarrassment, which is what are red flags? So we're going to save that for another time so no startups become upset or embarrassed by your answer or yourselves. So I'm leaving it, but it will come back. And I want to thank the panel because it's difficult to be on a panel as a large public corporation because I've done this podium session a lot, and be honest and open because there's a lot of restrictions on these folks. This was a very honest and open discussion. I applaud you. Thank you. Thanks, folks.